Hello.
So, not to get into specific positions for competitive reasons, but as far as potential lineup changes, when you watch the offensive line on tape, did you see anything that made you think at a particular position on the line, I want to open up the competition and make a change potentially at one of the five spots, or are you sticking with that group?
I'm the best players always play. I I saw a lot of things that had room for improvement, not just necessarily in the offensive line, but I will. I'm definitely not opposed to someone raising their game, but we will play the best players, and we have. When players have bad plays, we coach them, and hopefully, the point is that you check off that box where you won't get beat by this thing again. If it's the same thing over and over, that's when you consider those things, or if somebody brings it to your attention that they offer a better solution.
Mike, regarding the backup quarterback position, will the backup this week, the number two this week, be opponent specific? Like who gives you the best chance to beat Atlanta, or best overall number two quarterback?
I'm looking to um, uh, avoid, hopefully, a back and forth, and would like to solidify that. But I think competition raises everyone, and it was at that point where it got to that point. So they will compete, and hopefully it will remain. But I'm not opposed to doing anything that will help us beat an opponent. So I'm not going to stamp that or co-sign that it will never happen. But the ideal would be for one to stay and remain. But we'll work through that as the week goes.
How much work does the number two guy get with the offense, the regular offense, not looks team?
It's the actual starters are minimal because of all the stuff that you have to do game plan specific. But there is a lot of work in walkthroughs and extra work that these guys do to make sure that they don't miss out on the execution of the reps. We have coaches, a full staff of coaches for that specific reason. A lot of the stuff that we do, we do. Both quarterbacks walk through all of the game plan plays throughout the week and on Monday after the game to stay tight on all that stuff. And you get some competitive periods within the week. So I would say probably last week guys had live action in a handful plus, but it's never ideal like exactly like training camp. But when you have a lot to evaluate because of how you're running the opposing team's offense, and particularly when there's overlap in schemes, such as there is this week in terms of the offensive systems bare bones, and how you can actually steal reps from your offense when you're doing the opposing team's offense. So it's the most difficult when you're playing a vastly different offense. Like if you're playing a zone read offense and stuff, that you don't really get reps on time on task on stuff that you're actually working on for your own offense as much. But this week there's plenty of reps that either are with the starters or that are very applicable to how we're asking quarterbacks to execute the offense.
After the game, you said we'll watch the tape and change our style of play if we have to. Is that about run pass ratio? I don't want. Can you tell us more about what you were driving at there?
Well, I think you try to lean into what players are good at, and then you're trying to assess where the failures are coming and why. And if you're asking your players to do something that they're incapable of, you make sure to specifically when you have a team that's really focused on getting right and ending a streak of losses, you make sure that players are empowered. So you take a critical look at quite literally everything, and and if you need to be under center, in pistol, in gun, if you need to motion more to get guys open, to motion less, to if you need to play more zone defense, if you need to play more man defense. It is when you're flipping the table over and getting things done and trying to fix things as your team needs you to, you really take a hard look at not just that game, but kind of the breadth of the season and patternize stuff so that you can produce your best brand of football. So realistically for me, run pass ratio is a thing, and how do you get more runs? Well, you don't turn the ball over. Well, could you have avoided turning the ball over with your style of play or your play calling and or who you're throwing to or what you're doing? All things, without revealing a competitive advantage, all things are assessed for sure.
Like, going back to the backup quarterback situation, how do you assess what each guy does best? How do they compare with one another?
How do I assess? I analyze how they receive coaching points, what they're able to do in response to, like, all right, I need you to throw with more conviction here. Okay, I need you to see I need you to be more in tune with what we call sound bites, which is kind of our patternized phrasing of the read. So we need you to be more in concert with the timing and your footwork. There's 100 different things that you coach quarterbacks on because they touch the ball every play. So whether it's you're talking about a handoff, well, a handoff has a track, and if you're running an outside zone, the quarterback better be at 4 or 8 o'clock, or we're going to get the ball. The mesh is going to be off. So that's off. You coach them on it. You say, hey, it needs to be 8 o'clock, and then you see their next rep, and then if you have to remind them, it goes on. But the quarterback is the captain of the ship, so they have to take in coaching as well as command the huddle, communicate responsibilities, and then allow as the point guard of the offense to allow other players to make plays. So there. You have, I think, with our quarterbacks, they both have supreme arm talent, and they make plays in different ways. And you're trying to see both how consistent they can be in rhythm, but then on top of that, can they make plays when there's not a play there? That is something that they both have the ability to do, and both are trying to, like every quarterback, make that as consistent as possible, which is an ongoing, ever-evolving process.
Things right now. One more thing on the thing about potential personnel changes. Did you make clear to the team that there will be open competition at several spots? Was that part of your message this week, or is that just assumed by players in your mind where you don't have to articulate?
That's I think if you follow through with action over time, your body of players assumes that. I don't think it. I think that's in the nature of the business. You establish whether or not you're willing to play the best players or not early. I think the first time I did it on the Miami Dolphins was probably in 22, and you have to be consistent with how you follow through with that, and then you don't have then it's kind of understood and second nature. But I think that's something that's always important to me for everyone involved, including the individual players, because you deserve, if you give the team the best shot, you deserve the opportunity, and so we're always mindful of that, and that is something that I've always tried to stay true to.
How are things right now between you and Tua?
Well, I would say we had a great hour and a half meeting yesterday. We had a great hour meeting the day before. As Tua and I have always operated, I think there's zero uncertainty with Tua on my conviction in him and my belief in him. So I think we're both very, very eager to do better at our jobs, and we're both very committed and trusting of each other to respond to what is necessary for the team to do better.
What do you tell him as he goes through these struggles of back-to-back 3 interception games?
What I tell him is I coach him on the individual plays specifically, how he can avoid that in the future. I don't. My coaching point is don't do that. That's not my coaching point. Is don't do that. You know, it's very You're trying to instruct for future. But I think it's also important that I kind of remind him of how he's responded in the past to give him conviction in the future. So I think he's been one that he's never strayed 100% from being questioned as a player. He's at a high-profile position, and that is the expectation is to have standards that he has for himself, and he knows that as a franchise quarterback, when you don't live up to your own standard, you're probably going to get a lot of unintended consequences by sheer result, and you're going to hear about it. And I have confidence based on my history with him that he'll respond in the appropriate manner, which I made sure to communicate with him, and he's received it and pressed forward to the Atlanta Falcons, which is what our entire team is very much focused on. Anything else other than the Atlanta Falcons is a waste of our time, and we're not doing a service to what we need to be doing to try to win a game.
He said he felt like he was multitasking. Do you know how do you want him to handle that? The multitasking that you're referring to?
I think that's multitasking is the quarterback's position, and I think what he's referring to is the layers of that when you have in-game injuries. For a quarterback that changes substitution, it changes the tempo. You're figuring out, when people are coming in and out, who's at what position, and that it's a challenge for everyone involved on game day when you have in-game adjustments like that. So that's part of the position. I think it was there was a couple fast-moving ones in that game, so that's probably what he's referring to.
I've heard coaching truly starts when things go wrong. When you're winning, it's not easy, but it's easier. I'm curious what you've learned about yourself as a coach throughout this 1-6 start.
No, I think that's very much a huge part of the business. I don't think you need you're not called upon as a necessity as a leader as much when there's high fives. I think my job is very much the realist when you're going through adverse situations, because you're that's what the position allows you to affect each and every person, and as the leader, you're trying to show people how to operate on the heels of failure. I think that's I'm very motivated in times such as these, because I do think that this is when leaders are needed the most. So you're coaching to win football games, but your true test as a coach does come in adverse situations, which is always been the case. This isn't in my career, my 20-year NFL career. It's not my first, nor will it be my last losing streak. That's the nature of the NFL. And it's a big boy league that it does get tough, but I think I signed up for the tough parts, not the easy parts.
Devon has, I think it's 91 more touches than next most active player in this offense. I asked you something similar about this at the beginning of last season, and I think you more or less said, like, good things happen when he touches the ball, so he's going to keep getting them. Is that kind of the same case in 25, or are you guys actively looking to diversify?
Yeah, I think there comes a level of confidence from the distributor when you do have successful touches. I think I would say that Devon's done a very good job being where he's supposed to be in the timing of the play, and there's been a lot of situations where he wasn't the primary eligible, that he's gotten a lot of touches there as well. I do think there's very talented players in our backfield that I think it does best for the team if we can spread the ball out. I think it's a lot easier when you have games where if you don't turn the ball over. I think every time that you have a multi-turnover game, you end up saying we should have ran the ball more. And every single time that you have a multi-turnover game, it's really hard to get the distribution of carries that you'd like. I think one game in particular that strikes a chord with me is the Buffalo game, that because the turnover that was produced happened on the last drive, and prior to, there was no turnovers to that point. It was a little easier to diversify those touches, which I think is the best for the offense when you have capable players like that. So I am looking to do that, but there's a lot of factors that play into that for it to be executed, which is what we're looking to execute better on this week.
After the game, you said you were confident that the team hadn't checked out on you based on the way they performed. What makes you confident that the way they performed after Cleveland that they haven't checked out?
Well, that's I can totally understand that question, and based upon the play of the team, it's very fair to worry about, which is why I think it was important for me to really take measure of the players in and out of the building to kind of get a better beat on that. I've spent a little more time, or kind of changed my routine to know for myself by being around them more and knowing exactly where they're at. And my confidence comes from direct communication from them, not in a meeting form, but quite literally and on the ground floor of the facility. And whether it's 5:45 this morning or it was 5 p.m. yesterday, the players on the player day off, when they're in and out of the building, or for this day of business, they've been very focused on the Atlanta Falcons, which is the only thing that I care about, because I know in the NFL, if you don't have 100% focus on the opponent will make you regret that.